Hello coders, welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be covering math in Java. And this is going to include your basic math operations, other operators you can use with math, and the math class that is built in with Java. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, first thing you need to know is with Java, your math is pretty much going to stay the same as it is in, everyday math. The addition is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They are all the same. So that is the most important part you need to remember. So yes, your Java language can calculate math for you. Is it going to be exactly what it will be on the calculator? In all cases, no, not necessarily, but basic math it will be. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So the first thing you can look into is, of course, for this part, I'm going to just go ahead and make my print statement that I can copy for the rest of this video. That way I don't have to keep typing it. And this is just something I do so that way I don't have to repeatedly type it out when I need to use it. I can just come here, copy this, and use it how I need to. So let's go ahead and get started with our operators. So let me actually move this so it'll be out of our way. Put this up here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going ahead and just print out numbers, right? So of course you can just print out your numbers if you would like to your screen. So for example, we could do 7 and then we'll do 8. And those are obviously two numbers. And you can print them directly to the screen. So if you see at the bottom, it printed out 7 and 8. Another thing you can do is simply using the print statement. And then now let's try 8 plus 2. And click run on that. And then there you have it. It shows you 10. So yes, you can print numbers directly in Java. So let me put the comment. And then this one is using math operators. So of course you can do the same thing how we did with the addition here. You can also do 5 minus 2. We can do 4. Now the asterisk is what is used for multiplication in Java. So that's a little different in some cases, of course. As you know, sometimes multiplication could be used with the X, but in this case, we're using the asterisk. And here we will do 10 divided by 2. So those are some simple math operations, and as you see, it went ahead and printed those to our console for us to see those simple math operators. Now that you have that, what you could do is have variables that will hold these numbers. Now, it depends on what type of number you are going to use. So for example, in this case, we would have simple whole numbers, or that's what we've been using prior. So if you're using a whole number, you would use an int. So you would do int, and we'll say n1 for number 1 is going to equal, and then you just put your number, so 5. So that is a simple variable that's going to hold the number 5, and now it's going to be held in n1. You can have another variable, so we'll say n2 is going to equal, let's say 12, and then we'll do int n3 is going to equal 4. All right? So now we have 3 integer variables that are holding numbers, and we can use those within print statements. So if I wanted, I'll go ahead and paste my print statement. And now all I would have to do is say N1 plus N3. And then that would calculate what N1 plus N3 is. I can do the same thing with the N2. So I could say N2 multiplied by N1 and let me put a comment using variables to calculate math. All right. So those are two examples of using variables inside of your print statement. And of course, when you run them, they would do the same thing. So it will give you the answer to those. Now you're like, well, I don't know exactly what type of number I'm working with. Unfortunately, you would have to figure out which type of number you're working with, because if there's a case where the number you want to use has a decimal, for example, a decimal cannot be used with an integer. So you'd have to use the appropriate data type when you're calculating math. So, for example, you could have the double, right? So the double can hold different decimal values within it. So we could say double D1 is going to equal 12.3. Double D1 is going to equal, D2 is going to equal 5. Now, you don't have to actually have a decimal when you're establishing a double value. So, for example, as you see, D2 does not have a decimal in it. It just has 5. But if I print D2 and I run that, then you see it automatically will add the decimal to that value. So in the case where you don't know if you need to have a decimal value, you can simply make it a double. It's just going to add the decimal with a 0 followed behind it automatically for you. So in case you need to specify it, then that will allow you to use it. Okay, so for this tutorial, we're just going to be sticking with the int and the double data types, because these are two of the most common ones you would use with the math in Java. Yes, there are other number data types, but generally, for the most part, int and double are going to be the main ones that are utilized in everyday programming. So that's why we're going to stick with them. So now I want to get into utilizing the math class. So the math class is actually built into Java. This was already created for you, and you don't have to create it, but it exists for your use. So you have to understand how to use it for your benefit. So to get started with that, the math class contains different math operations that you can do, such as finding the minimum or the maximum of a number. Pi is in the math class, and you can find the square root, absolute value of different numbers if you need to. So today I'm just going to cover a few of the most common ones in the math class. Of course, there's a lot more than I cover in these tutorials, but to cover all of these in one tutorial would probably take up a lot of time. So to save you time, I'm going to just cover the common ones and encourage you to look up all of them after you watch this video. So let's go ahead and get started with the minimum, or in math, or in the math class, they call it min. So we'll start with the min method. And that's going to be the min method. So anytime you want to work with the minimum of a number, then you would have to use the min method. Now, when you want to use the math method, or the math class, excuse me, you need to state that it's the math class. So I'm just going to use a print statement in here. So when you want to use the math class, you would say math and then dot. And as soon as you hit dot, here we have all of the different methods you can use. So you see here's pi and absolute value, there's adding, there's the tangent, the sine, ceiling of a number, cosine, pretty much the same operations that, everyone hates from calculus. So you do have the ability to work with those. And now we have the min method. So I'm going to click enter on that. And then that's how you would start the min method. So math.min, and then you would put in two different integers. Now, in this case, it auto-populated two of the numbers I already have, two of the integers I already have. So it looked in my code, it found the integers that I have, and it placed 2 inside of it. So it chose N2 and N3. So N2 is 12, N3 is 4. So that's one example. So we'll go ahead and run that, and then say that, and then it returned that 4 was the minimum of that number, or the two numbers. So we had 12 and 4. So that's how you use the min. You could also do something like this. So you could say the minimum number is. So, of course, you in the future may want to use it in a sentence. So, if you don't know how to do or combine strings with the numbers, then test it out, right? So, the first thing, we'll just go ahead and see if this works, because I'd rather you just try it out by curiosity first, instead of just like, oh, let me go to Google. No, just test it out to see if it's going to work, right? So, we'll do this. So it did the same thing. I'll hit run. And there you have it. So when you want to print out information with the associated number, you could simply do something like this and it'll return it to you. So that's an example of the min method. The max method is going to be the same way. It's just going to find the maximum number. So we could do system.out.print line. We'll do the maximum number is plus. We'll do math dot max. Then we'll do the double this time, and it's going to choose 2 of our doubles. And then we'll run that, see which one is the maximum there, and then it told us 12.3 is the maximum. So that is the min, and that's the max method. All right, you can also do square root. So square root, and then that's going to be the sqrt method. So then we could do that, system.out.print line. The square root of 12 is, then we'll say math dot square root, and then we'll do, it's looking for a double, so I'll go ahead and put in 24. And we can click run on that. All right, and then it gives us the square root of that. So that's how you use the square root. So there's a lot more math methods out there. It just kind of depends on which ones you need to use for your actual work. There's going to be different times where you need to use these different operations. So that's also something you need to keep in mind. Now, there is one more thing I wanted to introduce with numbers. There may be a time where you want to actually work with random numbers. So if you want to work with random numbers, then you have the ability to do so. But the first thing you need to do is actually import that class. So generating random numbers, let's scroll up to the top. You're going to have to import it. So you can import the math class, but you don't have to. Because the math class, if you look, it's java.lang.math, but it's built in. So here we're going to import the random class. So import java.util.random. There it is. And then that's what we want to do. So random will allow us to generate random information or random numbers that we can use in our code. So just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and go down to where we have our code and let's start utilizing it. So first thing I'm going to do is create a random object. All right, so we're going to do random, and then we're going to name it R, just for small. We're going to say new random. Okay. So for this, it populated the wrong random, so that's why we got an error. So I'm going to take that one out. It should be a capital R. And I'm going to go down to the bottom, and now we have that fixed. So now we have our random object that we can use. And then now we're going to basically create random integers. So we'll say int r let's put random1 is going to equal r dot, and then we're going to do next int. But if we do that, it's basically going to allow us to enter like r dot next int. Here it's going to let us say where do we want to stop, so we'll say 100. And then we could say print or system.out.print random1, and I'm going to add before it the random number is. All right. So that's going to help us generate a random number. And as you see, it generated 58. You can click run again. Now it's 21. Click run again. Now it's 33. So basically it's going to choose a random number up. Choose random number from 0 to 100. Let's say you want to choose it from a specific area of numbers or specific range. So we could say int random2 is going to equal r dot next int, and then we're going to use this one. This is going to let us say where do we want to start. So let's put 10, and where do we want to end? We'll put 20. Choose a random number from 10 to 20. Then we're going ahead and print that out. So we'll say random number between 10 and 20. Then we'll do this, and then we'll add random2. All right, and click run. All right, it gave us 19, it gave us 12, gave us 13. So as you see, it's sticking to what we asked for that. And that's getting the random integers, right? You can also get random doubles. It's going to work the same way. Random doubles. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll say double dran1 is going to equal r, which is our random object, dot next double. And then we'll do, I'm just going to put in the number we're going to stop at. We'll do 200. And then I'll just go ahead and print that to save time. So we'll say random double up to 200. Then we'll do dran1. All right, and then we'll do double dran2. It's going to equal r dot next double. And we're going to do, for this one, we'll do 1, 2, let's do 1,000. Then we'll print that out. We'll say random double from 1 to 1,000. Then we'll do dran2. All right. Then we'll click run on that. All right. Then it gives us our random doubles and our random integers now. And as you see, each time we run them, we're getting different random numbers. All right. So basically for this tutorial, I just wanted to show you how to use math in Java, including your math class, and using or generating random numbers that you can utilize in your math calculations in Java. For the most part, a lot of this is going to be pretty much self-explanatory about what's going on. Of course, when it comes to the math class and the methods, you should look those up to see all the capabilities out there. But these are some of the common things you're going to use in your code, which is why I introduced it to you. So hopefully this wasn't too hard or too complicated to understand. Hopefully it was very much similar to your everyday math that you're used to. The only thing that would probably be a little iffy to remember is the random, but as you use it more often, you'll definitely understand how to work with it in the future. So overall, thank you for your time spending watching this coding video. Hopefully you learned a lot or enough about math and Java to do some calculations in your math. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.